Brrrt! The sound ripped through the quiet afternoon air. Uzo froze. His confident smile vanished. A strange warmth spread slowly down his leg. Silence. Then, chai! Laughter exploded across the village square. Women covered their noses with their wrappers. Children pointed with wide eyes. Men jumped backward in shock. And there, in the center of Nara, the mighty Uzo, the man who once boasted he would marry 10 wives, stood helpless as disgrace stained his pride. The beautiful maiden he had been speaking to stared at him in horror. Then she screamed and ran. The smell spread quickly. The laughter grew louder. The lion has messed himself. The great Uzo cannot control his own body. Is this the man that wants 10 wives? Uzo's ears burned. His chest tightened. For the first time in many years, he did not know what to say. He turned and ran. Yes, Uzo ran. The same man who walked with pride every day ran like a frightened child. But disgrace does not come without warning. This shame had been walking toward him slowly, and it began with hunger. Not hunger for food, hunger for women.
In Nara village in Enugu, there lived a man named Uzo, the wealthiest farmer in the land. Uzo was tall, handsome, and strongly built. His skin shone under the hot sun when he walked on his farm. His voice was deep and confident. When he walked through the village square, people greeted him with respect. "Good afternoon, Uzo." "No, great farmer." Children admired him. Women looked at him twice. But Uzo was not born rich. Years ago, he was just a struggling young farmer with a small piece of land and big dreams. In those days, many people ignored him. Only one woman believed in him, Oluchi. Oluchi married Uzo when he had nothing. Their wedding was simple and quiet. No loud celebration, no expensive gifts, just love and hope for a better future. In those early years, Uzo loved Oluchi deeply. At night, he would hold her hands and whisper, "Oluchi, I may be poor today, but I promise you, I will work hard. I will build a big house for you. I will protect you and love you till the end of my life." He meant every word. They suffered together. Oluchi helped him on the farm. She sold vegetables in the market. She prayed for his success. Slowly, their hard work began to pay off. The harvest became bigger. Uzo bought more land. His barns were filled with yam and palm oil. Money started flowing. But as his wealth increased, something inside Uzo began to change. The praises from villagers entered his head. People now called him the richest farmer in Nara. Young maidens smiled at him. Instead of looking away, he smiled back. The humble man who once feared losing his wife began to feel powerful. Soon, he convinced himself that one wife was not enough for a successful man like him. That was when he married his second wife, Nkechi. Nkechi was a beautiful maiden in the village. She was bold and sharp-tongued. She did not hide her feelings. She loved luxury, expensive wrappers, shining beads around her waist, heavy gold earrings, and fine perfumes. She enjoyed attention and carried herself proudly. Unlike calm and patient Oluchi, Nkechi was fire. When Uzo told Oluchi he wanted another wife, her heart broke quietly, but she endured. In their culture, a man could marry more than one wife. Uzo married Nkechi in a grand ceremony, louder and more expensive than his first wedding. As years passed, Oluchi gave Uzo 4 children. Nkechi gave him 3. Yet, Uzo was still not satisfied. Every evening, he sat under the cashew tree with his friends, drinking palm wine and boasting. "A man like me should have more than 10 wives," he would say proudly. He continued flirting with young maidens even as his wives waited at home. Then one day, everything changed. A beautiful maiden named Amaka came from a neighboring village to stay with her aunt in Nara. From the moment she arrived, the village was restless. Amaka was breathtaking. Her skin glowed, her eyes were bright. When she walked, her hips moved gently, and her waist beads made a soft sound that turned heads. Every man in the village wanted her. Young men brought gifts, older men found excuses to pass by her aunt's house. But Amaka had already made up her mind about her future. She had seen poverty before. She did not want to suffer. She wanted comfort, fine clothes, a big house, and a soft life. She was not looking for love, she was looking for wealth. So she rejected many suitors. When Uzo saw her at the market, he was speechless. His heart raced like a young boy's. She will be my third wife, he decided. When Uzo sent gifts to Amaka's family, goats, bags of rice, drinks, and money, she did not refuse. She asked about his wealth. She looked at his big compound. She saw the respect people gave him, and she agreed. The wedding was grand. Drums were beaten. The village celebrated. But after 6 months of marriage, Amaka had no child. Whispers began. Nkechi was the first to mock her. Some women trade their womb for beauty, she said loudly one afternoon. What is the use of a fine face when the womb is empty? Amaka felt the insult deeply. She cried alone at night. Oluchi remained silent, carrying her own quiet pain. And Uzo? Instead of comforting Amaka, he had already started flirting again with young maidens in the village. His desire for women had grown bigger than his sense of responsibility. His farm was large, his house was full, his wealth was plenty. As months passed, Amaka began to see what she had refused to see before. Uzo had started again. He laughed too freely with young maidens at the market. He stood too close. He sent small gifts secretly. Soon, rumors spread around Nara village in Enugu that Uzo was planning to marry a fourth wife. When Amaka heard it, her heart skipped. She had believed her beauty would be enough. She thought once Uzo married her, he would finally be satisfied. She thought her smooth skin, her charming smile, and her perfect shape would make him forget other women. But instead, his desire only increased. Even though Uzo provided everything his wives needed, food, clothes, money, servants, his heart was restless. The truth was simple. The only woman he had ever truly loved deeply was Oluchi. He married the others for status, pride, and ego. Oluchi was his foundation. The others were trophies. Amaka slowly began to understand this painful truth. Meanwhile, Nkechi did not make life easy for her. Every day came with one insult or the other. 1 year in this house and nothing to show, Nkechi would say loudly. Beauty does not carry pregnancy. One hot afternoon, the tension exploded. Amaka and Nkechi argued in the courtyard. Words flew like arrows. Servants stood at a distance, pretending not to listen. You thought your beauty would rule this house, Nkechi shouted. At least I have children to show for my place here. Amaka could not reply. Her throat tightened. Her eyes filled with tears. Without speaking to anyone, she left the compound. For the first time since her marriage, she went out without her maids. She walked quickly, wiping her tears, heading toward the stream to clear her head. The path was quiet, only the sound of birds and dry leaves under her feet. When she reached the stream, she saw an old woman sitting under a large tree nearby. The woman's wrapper was faded, her hair was white, her back slightly bent, yet her eyes were sharp and calm. The old woman looked up as Amaka approached. You are crying, my daughter, she said gently. Amaka was surprised. She quickly wiped her face. I am fine, Mama. The old woman smiled softly. A woman who is fine does not cry alone by the stream. Those words broke the last wall in Amaka's heart. She sat down on a stone and began to cry openly. I thought wealth would bring me happiness. I thought beauty would secure my place. But my husband is already looking for another wife. His second wife insults me every day. I feel empty. Child, she said, a man who is not content with 2 wives will not be content with 10. His hunger is not for women, it is for pride. Then she reached into a small cloth tied at her waist and brought out a piece of bitter kola. Chew this, she said calmly. Amaka hesitated for a moment, but she collected it. The kola was very bitter. As she chewed, her head began to feel light. The sound of the flowing stream slowly faded. The air around her changed. Suddenly, she was no longer by the stream. Amaka found herself standing in a strange open place under a dark sky. A fire was burning in the middle. Around it were women, young and old, dressed in white and red wrappers. Some were beating drums. Some were laughing loudly. Their eyes shone strangely. Fear gripped Amaka's heart. "Welcome, Amaka," they said together. Her legs trembled. One woman stepped forward, the same old woman from the stream, but now she stood tall and strong. Her back was straight, her voice was powerful. Amaka realized the truth. The old woman was their leader. "Do not be afraid," the leader said. "We know your pain. We know your tears." The women circled around Amaka, still smiling. "With us by your side," one of them said with a wicked smile, "you have solution to all your problems." Amaka was fidgeting, her hands shook, but slowly she began to speak. She told them everything. Uzo's flirting, Nkechi's insults, the rumors of a fourth wife, her fear of losing her place. When she finished, the leader laughed deeply. "A man's wandering eyes can be controlled," she said. Then her face became serious. "You have a choice," she said firmly. "You will choose one, children or your husband's full attention. You cannot have both." The air became silent. Amaka thought for a long moment. Children were important. In Nara village in Enugu, a woman's respect often came from her children. But her heart was burning with jealousy and fear of losing Uzo. After thinking deeply, she raised her head. "I choose my husband," she said. The women around her began to laugh and clap. "It is done," the leader declared. "It is done. From this day forward," another woman said with a wicked smile. "Any time Uzo flirts with a maiden, he would disgrace himself." The leader lifted her staff. "Henceforth, any time Uzo attempts to seduce or flirt with another woman, he will soil himself in public." The laughter grew louder. The drums beat harder. Amaka's heart pounded. Then, suddenly, silence. She opened her eyes. She was back at the stream. The sun was still shining. The birds were still singing. There was no fire, no drums, no women. Only the sound of water. Amaka stood up slowly, confused. Was it a dream, a vision, or something else? Her heart was still racing. Without looking back, she adjusted her wrapper and began walking home. But deep inside her, she knew something had changed. When Amaka returned home that evening, the compound felt noisy as usual. Her maids rushed toward her immediately.
"Madam, we have been looking for you everywhere," one of them said. "We were worried." Amaka forced a small smile. "I just needed fresh air," she replied softly. Across the compound, under the big cashew tree, Uzo sat with his friends. Calabashes of palm wine were in their hands. They were laughing loudly, boasting and talking about harvest and women, as always. Uzo did not even notice when Amaka entered quietly. She walked past them, her heart still unsettled, her mind replaying everything that happened at the stream. Was it a dream, a vision, or something real? That night, she barely slept. The next morning, life continued as normal. Uzo dressed for the farm, his walking stick in hand, shoulders high, confidence shining on his face. He greeted a few villagers proudly as he walked down the narrow path leading to his farmland in Nara village in Enugu. Halfway down the path, he saw her. A beautiful maiden carrying a basket on her head, young, smiling, respectful. Uzo slowed his steps. Opportunity. He adjusted his wrapper and cleared his throat. "Good morning, fine girl," he said smoothly, moving closer. "You are new here, Ami? I have not seen a beauty like you in this village before." The maiden giggled shyly. As Uzo continued speaking, trying to charm her like he had done many times before, something strange happened. A sudden discomfort twisted violently inside Uzo's stomach. He paused mid-sentence. The confident smile on his face trembled. He tried to ignore it. Maybe it will pass. He shifted slightly, cleared his throat, forced another charming grin at the maiden, but the feeling tightened, stronger, hotter. His face changed. A bead of sweat formed on his forehead despite the morning breeze. "Ah," he muttered under his breath. The maiden tilted her head. "Sir?" Uzo attempted to continue speaking, but his voice came out strained. Then, suddenly, his body betrayed him. He froze, completely still. For a split second, the world felt silent. Then, the maiden gasped sharply. "Huh?" She jumped backward, eyes wide with horror. The smell rose into the air. A nearby goat bleated loudly as if to protest. Wetin be this?" a farmer shouted from behind. Another dropped his hoe. "Chai!" A maiden covered her nose, her face twisting in shock. "Tufiakwa!" Her basket slipped from her head. Thud. Palm fruits scattered across the red earth. Children who had been playing nearby stopped and stared. One boy pointed. "Na Uzo be that?" A market woman shrieked. "Jesu! In broad daylight?" Within seconds, whispers began to spread like wildfire. The wealthy Uzo? The great farmer? See disgrace, oh! An old man shook his head slowly, clicking his tongue. Tss, tss, tss. Pride before fall. Uzo's heart pounded violently in his chest. Gbeam, gbeam, gbeam. Humiliation burned hotter than Hamatan fire. He tried to move, but it was too late. The damage was done. Laughter mixed with shock filled the air. Some villagers covered their mouths. Others didn't even try to hide it. Power don't change hands, or maybe na juju. Uzo's shoulders, once high and proud, collapsed. Without another word, he hurried toward the nearby bushes, his walking stick trembling in his grip. Behind him, the murmuring only grew louder. Chai, what a shame. Back at the compound, the news traveled faster than Hamatan wind. Before noon, even the servants had heard. Two maids whispered near the cooking fire. "Is it true? They said it happened for road." Ha, God forbid. Small bursts of suppressed laughter escaped them. When Uzo finally returned home, he avoided every eye. His head was lowered. His steps were heavy. The same man who once walked like a lion now moved like a hunted animal. On the veranda, Amaka stood quietly, watching. Her heart raced in her chest. Gbeam, gbeam, gbeam. She remembered the words clearly. Henceforth, any time Uzo attempts to flirt with another woman, he will disgrace himself. A chill ran down her spine. Her fingers tightened around the wooden pillar beside her. This was no coincidence. This was no ordinary stomach problem. She swallowed hard. This was no dream. And for the first time, fear and power danced together inside her chest.
I bring you new stories every week. Subscribe to Mercy Storytime and continue learning from our wisdom.